The richest man in the world rode into Washington wielding a chainsaw. He had a promise.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
That he would cut at least $2 trillion in government spending. 130 days later, he's stepping back, or so he says.
It's not the end of Doge, but really the beginning.
But what has Elon Musk actually achieved? We've dug into the numbers to find that many of his claims don't add up. And in the war on spending, there have been human casualties too.
We don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk.
They want to put federal employees into trauma. Doge did the April Fool's Day massacre.
Elon Musk is a once-in-a-generation type. He's built different fundamentally.
On his platform X, the billionaire thanked the president for the opportunity to reduce wasteful spending. He called for the Doge mission to become a way of life throughout the government, referring to his Department of Government Efficiency initiative. As a special government employee, Musk's exit was planned for May, but it comes after he publicly split with Donald Trump over his one big, beautiful tax bill.
And undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, like, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful. But I don't know if it could be both.
To understand what happened, let's go back in time.
My name is Alex Saint, and I was a health communications officer at the FDA until I got fired by Doge. I worked doing the communications for things like products to treat infectious diseases, antibiotics, drug shortages, and also I worked with the team who handles counterterrorism and emerging threat response for the nation's pharmaceutical supply. And we found out that my entire office was going to be eliminated around 5 a.m. one morning. So there was no prior notice. My supervisor didn't know. His supervisor didn't know exactly who was going to be let go. We just all got an email saying, "Thank you for your service, you're not needed anymore." In accordance with President Donald Trump's executive order and the Department of Health and Human Services, you will be separated from the federal service effective June 2nd, 2025.
Last year, her team answered more than 40,000 phone calls. Of them, 70% came from the public asking questions about their medications. Now,
there's no one there to tell the American people what they need to know. They also fired a lot of the attorneys who handle policy to make sure that the actions that FDA is doing align with the law, and you no longer have the level of oversight internally to make sure that your decisions are legal.
in reply to Sky News' request for comment, the FDA stated that they remain committed to applying gold standard science to ensure the safety and efficacy of drugs and vaccines for the American people. The agency, it says, fully adheres to all applicable laws and regulations, and all drug safety recalls, testing and investigations have continued, the statement added. Doge was billed as a necessary evil.
If we don't do this, America will go bankrupt.
The tech tycoon was tasked by the US president to cut federal spending to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity.
The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
He then halved that number to say we've got a good shot at getting $1 trillion in cuts.
I think we'll try for $2 trillion. I think that's like the best case outcome. But I do think that you kind of have to have some overage. I think if we try for $2 trillion, we've got a good shot at getting one.
But he's now appeared to offer a more modest target, saying he expects to achieve savings of $150 billion.
I'm excited to announce that we anticipate savings in FY26 from reduction of waste and fraud by $150 billion. And I mean, and some of it is just absurd, like people getting unemployment insurance who haven't been born yet. I mean, I think anyone can appreciate whether, I mean, come on, that's just crazy.
But is it that simple? This is how the government spent $7.6 trillion of taxpayers' money in 2024. Cutting $2 trillion would have taken a large chunk out of that spending, but the most recent aim only scratches the surface. And government spending hasn't decreased. This is how much government has spent so far this year, $190 billion more than the same time last year. Measuring the effects of Doge's cuts is difficult, but Sky News has looked at the claims made by Doge itself. We found there are glaring inaccuracies. A majority of the total savings that Doge claims to have made aren't verifiable. Their website says they have cut $170 billion, but it only lists $71 billion worth of cuts. And only $41.2 billion of those have any documentation attached for verification. Some of the savings claimed on the Doge website appear to exaggerate what will actually be saved. Doge claims this contract with Accenture Federal will save $167.2 million. But when you look at the contract on the government's procurement website, the numbers don't add up. Doge appears to have exaggerated savings on this contract by at least $48 million. No department has been spared. Education, energy, defence, social security, you name it, Doge has been there.
USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out.
The agency charged with humanitarian aid overseas.
Fraud. The whole thing is a fraud. Very little being put to good use.
The agency was subject to a 90-day pause on foreign assistance funding, which devastated non-profit organisations, businesses and aid groups that relied on grants from USAID to operate. Workers for USAID were put on administrative leave. The website and email accounts were shut down. In March, the agency was cut entirely, with the 1,000 or so projects left after the cull moved into the State Department. USAID was worth less than 1% of the federal budget, but Doge cut a whopping $12 billion in USAID contracts in its first few weeks. Sky News spent months speaking to international organisations who had their USAID funding cut. We reported on the impact cuts were having in Kenya.
Children under the age of 5, especially those breastfeeding from positive mother, because of these cuts. And it is going to be worse.
On the war in Ukraine in March.
That pause in USAID funding, what effect has it already had on your work?
We have to be realistic. We have to recognise that Ukraine has lost a reliable partner, a partner that has been helping all this time to overcome both military and social problems.
Miriam Abroad-Hugen leads the Middle East division of the global disability charity Humanity and Inclusion. The charity lost funding for 37 projects globally during the Doge cuts. In Jordan, her teams worked to help the thousands of refugees fleeing wars in surrounding countries like Syria.
We had the case of a person who had, a Syrian refugee who's been in Jordan for a while now, getting his measurements to get his prosthesis. Everything was ready for him to come to the orthopedic center to do the first trial of the prosthesis. And we had to call and say we can't deliver, which that's actually terrible.
The charity eventually paid for the Syrian refugees' prosthetic with money from other sources. But the chaotic way Doge went about actioning the USAID cuts forced organisations like this to juggle their financing. But it's not just the impact abroad. Americans at home are feeling the brunt of the cuts. Across many states, medical research trials and treatment programs have been axed by Doge. That includes HIV treatments, programs on vaccination and school nutrition, and local food banks have been cut. Unsurprisingly, it's not all been smooth sailing. Some employees were seemingly fired by accident. News of the layoffs came via mass email, mirroring Musk's approach to cost-cutting in his own companies like X.
I received a termination notice on Friday at 4:22 p.m. in my work email. Oleg worked cleaning park facilities, including the toilets. No more.
Why am I a target? I don't make that much money. I make around $40,000 a year. I can't even afford to live in the nearby community, so why me? Why am I the fat? But I chose to come serve the American people and the international community because I truly believe that our national parks are truly one of America's best ideas.
Millions of employees were offered buyouts to resign. So far, about 110,000 have accepted. As we understand it, more than 29,000 employees have left the US Treasury due to Doge's actions, the highest figure out of all government departments. To be fair to Doge, more savings will materialise in October, when the salaries of the 110,000 federal employees who took a buyout come off the books.
The problem with the federal government is it doesn't just produce one thing, right? It actually, in the broadest sense, produces society. It produces the basic services on which all of the people in the United States survive on from day to day.
Independent government watchdogs have also taken a massive hit. In the president's first week back in the White House, the government fired at least 17 independent inspectors general in charge of agriculture, commerce, defence and education. Opposition politicians have argued that staff dismissals have a sinister agenda.
You know what Elon Musk doesn't seem to be looking into? His own contracts.
Tractors, Mr. Musk.
I have to what?
Including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public. The people voted for major government reform.
Despite the human cost, there are instances where Doge's actions have been successes. The way government employees are retired, for example, has been streamlined. Previously, retirements were processed by hand in a limestone mine 230 feet underground. Yes, you heard that right. Hundreds of staff at the Office for Personnel Management, OPM, spent their days sifting through stacks of paper, recording employees' work histories. As of the 2nd of June 2025, all retirements will be processed on a new online portal developed by Doge, expediting a process that previously took months. But federal judges have been pushing back on the legality of Musk's actions. That includes one judge ruling that his dismantling of USAID likely violated the Constitution.
Anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, well, throw him out of here.
Some Trump supporters say Doge's work has been worth it.
The idea of efficiency and being efficient is something that in American politics we have talked a lot about since I've been alive, and I'm almost 50. Now that Elon Musk has actually come in at the direction of President Trump to actually do these things, the people that are crying about it are the ones that are most affected by it, right? So are you going to complain if your personal budget gets cut? Of course you are.
Will it all be worth it for Elon Musk? That's a question that only he can answer. In the meantime, Doge continues to make cuts to the US government, the effects of which may long outlast the Trump presidency.